Welcome to episode 4 of the Card Notes by Vintage Hockey Cards Report podcast. Today we're taking a closer look at the Allen Stanley 1957-58 Topps number 15 card, the Bernie Parent 1973-74 OPG number 66 card, the Bobby Russo 1970-71 OPG number 170 card, the Lou Angotti 1968-69 OPG number 103 card, and the Red Berenson 1974-75 OPG number 19 card. Let's get on with it. Enjoy. The Allen Stanley 1957-58 Topps number 15 hockey card. Written on the back of the card. Allen was a Bruin defense prospect 15 years ago, but detoured to Rangers as well as Chicago before Boston landed him last season. He steadied backline with slick plays. Who holds the record for most goals in season? Maurice Richard with 50. A closer look. Allen Stanley's time with the Boston Bruins was short. The 1957-58 season would be his last with the club. On October 8, 1958, Stanley was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Jim Morrison. It was with the Leafs that Allen would make his mark on the game. He helped the team win the Stanley Cup Championship 4 times and was named a second-team All-Star on 3 occasions. Stanley played 1,244 regular season and 109 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1948-49 and 1968-69. With the New York Rangers, Chicago Blackhawks, Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Philadelphia Flyers. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1981. As for the goal-scoring record, at the time of this hockey card's production, only one player had reached the 50-goal plateau, and that was about a decade and a half before. Maurice Richard was the only player with a 50-goal season, and that was accomplished way back in 1944-45. Bernie Geoffrion would tie the mark during the 1960-61 NHL season. Bobby Hull would also reach 50 in 61-62. From there, Hull would increase the record to 58 by 1968-69. 2 years later, Phil Esposito jacked the number to 76. Of course, in 1981-82, Wayne Gretzky set the virtually unattainable current mark of 92 goals. The Bernie Parent 1973-74 OPG number 66 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, Bernie came out of the Boston Bruins farm system. Bernie has an extra quick glove hand and he's quick on his feet. He broke into the NHL with Boston in 1965. Bernie is an original member of the Flyers. A closer look. What the back of this 1973-74 OPG Bernie Parent card doesn't note is that the stats on the back for 1972-73 are with the Philadelphia Blazers and the World Hockey Association. 1973-74 marked a return to the Flyers after the team traded Parent to the Toronto Maple Leafs during the 1970-71 NHL season. Bernie played just a single year in the WHA. The Flyers put him to work in 1973-74. Parent played in 73 of the team's 78 regular season games. He played in all 17 playoff games as the Broad Street Bullies captured their first Stanley Cup championship. Bernie Parent is not only an original member of the Flyers, he was the first player the team selected at the 1967 NHL expansion draft. He was second overall in the draft, with the Los Angeles Kings taking Terry Sawchuk first overall. Philadelphia made good goaltending a priority, taking Doug Favell with their second pick. The Bobby Russo 1970-71 OPG number 170 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, one of the most spectacular offensive players in the NHL. Averaged almost 22 goals a season for 9 seasons with Montreal Canadiens. Obtained by North Stars in a trade with Canadiens after 69-70 season. Russo's shot was expected to put more accuracy in North Stars' power play. A closer look. Bobby Russo came to the Minnesota North Stars via June 10, 1970 trade with the Montreal Canadiens. Going in the other direction was Claude LaRose. Things didn't go well for Bobby in Minnesota. In 1970-71, he scored just 4 goals in 63 regular season games, adding 2 more in 12 playoff games. By the start of the 1971-72 season, Russo was a member of the New York Rangers. With the new team, his scoring ability came back. Bobby registered 21 goals in 78 games with the Rangers and helped the club reach the Stanley Cup final before losing to the Boston Bruins. He led New York with 17 points over 16 playoff games. On the night of February 1, 1964, Russo had a 5-goal night for the Montreal Canadiens in a 9-3 win over the Detroit Red Wings. With 9 shots on Roger Crozier, Bobby wowed the home crowd at the Montreal Forum with 5 even-strength goals. Henri Richard had a 5-assist night with 4 coming on Rousseau goals. Bobby played 942 regular season and 128 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1960-61 and 1974-75 with the Montreal Canadiens, North Stars, and Rangers. He was honored with the Calder Trophy in 1961-62 as the NHL's Rookie of the Year. The Lou Angotti 1968-69 OPG 103 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, even though he captained the Philadelphia Flyers to the West Division Championship last season, Lou Angotti was dealt to the Pittsburgh Penguins over the summer. He's a real pepper pot on the ice and constantly wins fans' affection. Lou was an All-American selection while in college. A closer look. Just like his time with the Philadelphia Flyers, time for Lou Angotti with the Pittsburgh Penguins would be short. He spent just the 1968-69 season in Western Pennsylvania before moving to the Chicago Blackhawks. It wasn't a direct trip, however. The St. Louis Blues traded Craig Cameron and Ron Shaw to the Pens on June 6, 1969 in exchange for Lou. However, before the 1969-70 season began, the Blackhawks claimed him in the intra-league draft. It was a similar situation when Angotti came to the Penguins from Philadelphia. It all went down on June 11, 1968. First, the Flyers traded Lou to the Blues with Ian Campbell for Darryl Edestrand and Jerry Melnick. Later in the day, St. Louis shipped him to Pittsburgh with Ab McDonald going in the other direction. Lou would eventually actually play for St. Louis. He appeared in 51 games with the club in 1973-74, his last season in the National Hockey League. Angotti played 653 regular season and 65 Stanley Cup playoff games in the NHL between 64-65 and 73-74, with the New York Rangers, Blackhawks, Flyers, Penguins, and Blues. He moved to the WHA for a single season in 1974-75 to play 26 games for the Chicago Cougars. Lou played his collegiate career from 1959-60 to 1961-62. He was an All-American with Michigan Tech. The Red Berenson 1974-75 OPG 19 hockey card. Written on the back of the card, nicknamed the Red Baron, Red holds the modern-day record of 6 goals in 1 game, a mark he set against Philadelphia in 1968. 4 of the goals came in 1 period. A smooth, effortless skater, Red is a top playmaker and a fine defensive player as well. Has also played for Montreal, New York, and St. Louis. Was an All-American selection while in college. A closer look. On November 7, 1968, Red Berenson scored 6 goals for the St. Louis Blues in an 8-0 drubbing of the Philadelphia Flyers. To add insult to injury, it was a road game for the Blues played at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. To date, Berenson remains one of just 8 players to score 6 or more goals in a single NHL game. Joe Malone scored 7 on January 31, 1920, but that is not considered the modern era of NHL hockey. On that night in Philly, Berenson scored the only goal in the first period, assisted by Ab McDonald and Noel Picard. In the second period, Red's stick took on a magical glow. He scored all 4 goals in the second period for 5 unanswered on the game. After Terry Crisp and Noel Picard scored in the third, Berenson finished things off with his 6th goal of the game at 14:04 of the period. Red had 10 shots on Philadelphia goalie Doug Favell, representing a third of all shots put toward Favell that night. Berenson also added an assist on Noel Picard's goal for a 7-point night. On the season, Red totaled 35 goals for the Blues. Along with his 47 assists for 82 points, it would be the top offensive season of his lengthy NHL career. Berenson played 987 regular season and 85 playoff games in the National Hockey League between 1961-62 and 1977-78 with the Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, and Detroit Red Wings. With the 1961-62 University of Michigan Wolverines, Red Berenson played 3 years with the Wolverines, but it was in his final season, 1961-62, where he made his mark. Red scored 43 goals and totaled 70 points in 28 games to finish 4th in NCAA scoring. In the WCHA, he was the most valuable player and a first-team All-Star. He was also an NCAA West All-Star. Michigan competed in the Final Four tournament in Utica, New York. The team was bounced by Clarkson in the semifinal and won the 3rd-place game over St. Lawrence. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Card Notes. Stay tuned, there'll be more coming up soon. If you could, please hit the like button, and we'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel.